All right, welcome in everybody. Sorry I'm a few minutes late here. See, there's already some folks in the waiting room here. Good to see everybody. Let me just kind of double check a few things here. All right, so see David's here. Welcome in, David. Peter, all right. Doing cool. Steve, Danny, Russ. All right. Good deal. All right, so we're working on, and Richard, right on. We're working on the modes. Now we're almost done, people. We're at the end zone here. 2 more weeks to go on this. So the last mode is the Locrian mode. So go ahead and expand the text box that's underneath your video, YouTube video, and you'll see a link to sign up, or not sign up, but to print out the curriculum. Check that out. Go ahead and look at that. And then that's what we're going to be looking at today. So let me get my sheet out here. We should have 2 sheets for the Locrian. We've got the neck diagram one, looks sort of like that. And then the tablature one we'll be looking at next week. Okay. So my name's Dave Celentano with Guitar Tricks for these free Wednesday night group classes for everybody, anyone who wants to show up. Okay, so we've talked about 6 modes so far. And I'm just curious, can anyone, if you're watching this and you're curious about the modes, one thing that would behoove you is to know and memorize the names of the 7 modes in the proper order, and to be able to play them. So mode number 1 is Ionian. Okay. Mode number 2, Dorian. Mode number 3, Phrygian. Mode number 4 is Lydian. The 5th mode is Mixolydian. And the 6th mode is the one we did last couple weeks, Aeolian. That's very common as well. Today we're going to work on the 7th and final mode, Locrian. It's also probably the least used mode. And when we get into the nooks and crannies of it, kind of what makes it tick, we'll see why it's not used too often. So generally the modes also go with the parent chord that represents that position of the mode relative to the major scale. Okay. So I can see some other folks showing up. King 50, hello, and Zane, right on. So there's 3 major modes. They go with the 3 major chords that are diatonic to a major scale. So when we're talking about a C major scale, the 3 major chords in that scale are C major, the 1 chord, F major, the 4th chord, and G major, the 5th chord. You can play those any way you want. Okay. And the first mode goes with C major. That's Ionian. That's a major sounding mode. Okay. The mode that goes with the 4th chord, F, is the 4th mode, Lydian. That for the F goes. Okay, that has the sharp 4 in it. And then the mode that goes with the 5 chord G is based off the 5th note in the C major scale, the G note, and that's the G Mixolydian. Oops. Okay. Then there's 3 minor modes. They go with the 3 minor chords that are diatonic to the major scale. So if anyone knows what the 3 minor chords are in C major, it's the 2, the 3, and the 6 chords. Okay, so the 2 chord in the key of C is D minor. That goes with the 2nd mode in C major, which is D Dorian. D minor chord. And then the 3rd chord in the key of C is E minor. Goes with the E Phrygian. minor sounding mode. Okay, we went over all the concepts, theory, and applications over those modes the last bunch of weeks. Okay, and then the last minor mode goes with the 6th chord in the key of C major is A minor. And then the 6th mode is the Aeolian mode. Okay, so behoove everybody to know your names of the mode and at least know the root position pattern for that mode and then the chord that goes with it. So you got the chord kind of pins everything together. Okay. So you got 3 major sounding modes, goes with the 3 major chords. And then you got 3 minor sounding modes. Those go with the 3 minor chords, the 2, 3, and 6 chord. That leaves us with 1 chord left. Okay. Now I'm seeing some other folks come in. Jim's here. Zane. All right. Hello. And Zach. All right. Cool. From Venice, California. And a bang. Cool. Hi. Okay. So everyone grab your guitars and then print out the Locrian curriculum that we got. Okay. And then, so let's talk about that. So if you read the little text box that's up on the top of that neck diagram sheet there, everyone, you're going to see, let's see what it says here. Read it together. It says Locrian is the 7th mode. It's based on the 7th degree or the 7th note in whatever major scale you're doing. Okay. So in the key of C major, the 7th note is, just play the C major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th note is a B note. So let's check the tune in. Okay, so the B Locrian is essentially the major scale, but starting on the 7th degree. Okay, so I'm just playing the pattern I've got up here in the top neck diagram. And on your diagrams, people, the red dots are your root notes. Those are the B notes. Okay, it's 7 on the 6th string, 9 on string 4, and 7 on string 1 again. Okay? It sounds very mysterious. It's a lot, very similar to the Phrygian mode. In fact, who can tell me what's the, well, hang on one sec. Let me back up here. So if we think numerically about the notes of the Locrian relative to the major scale, there's a whole bunch of notes that are flatted. Okay, if you read what it says in the 2nd sentence, okay, so Locrian is based off the 7th degree, 7th note of the major scale. 2nd sentence says the notes of the parent chord is based off of that 7th note, the B note, and it builds a minor flat 5 chord. It's like if you're talking about triads, it builds a B diminished triad. Has a root, a flat 3rd, and a flat 5th. But it's not a full diminished chord. We call it a, if you add the 7th degree in there, it ends up being what we call a half diminished. In jazz, they use those half diminished a lot. It's a minor 7 with a flat 5. Okay, but I don't want to get too deep into that right now. Let's just kind of focus on the triad portion of it. So a B minor with a flat 5. The notes of it would be a root. Numerically, it would be the root, which is number 1. The roots are always number 1. The 3rd is 3 notes up from the root in the scale you're in the key you're in. Okay, and it's a flat 3rd, which means the distance between the root and that flat 3rd is 1.5 whole steps, or in other words, 3 frets. Okay, I'll lay that out in the guitar in a sec. And then the 5th degree is also flatted. Okay, so we didn't have any of our modes yet that had a flat 5. All of them had a 5 that was natural, okay, a perfect 5th interval. So what we got now from the B is the B note, 3 letters up from the B in the scale is the D. You can see that that's 3 frets, everybody, okay? That's your minor third. And then the flat 5 is 5 notes up from B within the scale, okay? So from B, you count up 1. The 2 is a flat 2. 3 is a flat 3. The 4 is perfect 4. And then you'll see that the 5 has a little flat sign in front of it. It's a flat 5. And then the 6 is also flatted. The 7th is flatted. And then the root. And the flat 2 again. Okay? So if we play just the root, flat third, and fifth, you got these 3 notes. It sounds like almost a diminished triad or diminished chord right there. See, if all we're playing is a root, third, and fifth, that's one way to do the diminished triad, or maybe some different ways you can play it on your guitar, okay? But that's not a pretty sounding chord, okay? It sounds very unsettling, kind of disturbing, kind of dark, kind of on the sinister side, okay? Now, let's check out down at the bottom. We're going to come back to the 3 note per string version in a sec. And then this is what your B diminished would look like if you wanted to play it on the bass strings of your guitar. You would bar your first finger on the 7th fret, strings 4, 3, 2. I'm sorry, 6, 5, 4, 3. We're not going to play strings 1 or 2. Okay, there should be 2 X's on the top string. I think I forgot to put a second one in there. I just hand wrote it in there. But the first and second strings we don't want to play. We just want to play the 4 bass strings, okay? And then your middle finger's on string 5 at the 8th fret, ring fingers on string 4 at the 9th fret. And if you play just those 4 strings, you can hear the ugliness of that chord. Sometimes those sound kind of neat in heavy metal. Randy Rhoads would work some diminished stuff into some of his Ozzy Osbourne songs. I think that's part of Revelation Mother Earth. Plays a little diminished chord right there. But for what we're doing, folks, Randy was playing the full diminished, which means it has a root, a flat third, a flat 5, and a double flatted 7. Don't worry about all that, though, okay? And then some Dave dudes commenting flat 5, scale degree, which sounds great in the blues. It also sounds great in the blues, too, for sure. If you add that flat 5 note into your pentatonic scale, yeah, blues players use the blues scale quite a bit. Even rock players add the blues note in. There's a lot of cool little, I'll run down some songs that might use that in a little bit. But the chord in itself, that B diminished chord, triad speaking wise, sounds pretty ugly, okay? So that's why you're never going to hear a song where the 1 chord is diminished. Diminished chords are typically passing chords, and they create tension that needs to be resolved. So if we just flat out play a diminished chord and don't resolve it, it's see how that resolves? It kind of resolves to that. See how that kind of resolves? There's ways you can resolve the diminished chords, but we'll talk about those later, or maybe at some other lesson, okay? So right now, I'm just going to kind of go over the notes of the scale, and we've already talked about all the notes that are changed in it. There's quite a few notes. In fact, let's see how many notes are altered from the major scale to make a Locrian. You got a root, that's always going to be the same. So in other words, folks, if I were to play a B major scale and then B Locrian, how many notes are different? Okay, the B would be the same. For B major, we would have to play a 2, not a flat 2. So you listen to B major. Now here's B Locrian. Sounds kind of dark, huh? It's got a flat 2, a flat 3, a 4, a flat 5, a flat 6, and a flat 7. So the only 2 notes, comparing it to a major scale, that don't change is the root and the 4th. All the other notes are flatted. So it's an extremely dark sounding mode. And I don't really even know any tunes that necessarily focus on Locrian, other than if you want to find like a 1 chord backing track where it's not even a chord, but it's just the note B, or like this. And you try to play the B Locrian on 1 string. Okay, it's pretty dark sounding, but you can get some neat sounds out of it. Like, for instance, if you were playing just the root, flat 3rd, and flat 5, in a diminished chord or arpeggio is built on all minor 3rd intervals. So you got your root to your flat 3rd is a minor 3rd interval. In other words, a minor 3rd, people, is 1.5 steps in musical language, musical parlance, or 3 frets if you're doing it on 1 string. And then every note is 3 frets apart, or a minor 3rd apart. So if I go up 3 more frets from that flat 3rd, that's the next note. That's the same as the flat 5. Okay? And from the flat 5, if I go up 3 frets, you got what we call the double flat 7, if you want to go that far. But it's a neat little pattern because it's the same shape, everybody, like this. It's fret 7 and 10 on the 6th string, then 8 and 11 on string 5, and then you're going to play the exact same thing on string 4 and 3, but at 9 to 12 on the 4th, 10, 13 on the 3rd string. Okay, and then on the top 2 strings, you got to move up 2 frets instead of 1. You're at frets 12 and 15, and then 13 and 16 on the top string. So basically, we're playing the same 4-note little shape in 3 different octaves. So we're doing 6th and 5th string. Okay, fret 7, 10, and then 8, 11. Then we're going to play the exact same notes an octave higher on strings 4 and 3, but we're down 1 string and up 1 fret, doing 9, 12, and then 10, 13 on the 3rd string. And then on the 2nd string to 1st string, it's the same shape again, but we got to move 2 frets to the right. So you can hear that there's the same 4 notes played 3 different times, different octaves. Okay, then, and then here we go. The 3rd octave. Try it backwards. Up, one more time, Dave. Okay, now what I did there is I altered one of the notes in the Locrian scale to make it fit that diminished, because the diminished sounds pretty cool. And we hear a lot of guitar players will do that. Spanish classical players play diminished a lot. Okay. There we go. You hear Yngwie Malmsteen, a lot of heavy metal and shred players do that as well. You hear it a lot in classical music too, like the Bach, Toccata and Fugue. This is in D harmonic minor. Okay, and then Bach plays a diminished arpeggio here. Hear all those minor thirds. Then he resolves it. Pulls it back in. Another diminished arpeggio. Okay, so in classical music, they use diminished a lot to create tension, but they always resolve afterwards, okay? So with that diminished arpeggio shape I just showed everybody, if you just do hammer-ons going up, that's kind of a neat little thing to do. I'll show you. This is a little lick when I was in high school. One of my high school mates was Marty Friedman. He former guitar player for about a decade, 10 years with Megadeth. He was in 12th grade when I was in 10th grade, and a bunch of my friends knew both of us, but I didn't know Marty at the time. But they said, you got to, reach out to this guy because he gives, I heard he gives lessons, because Marty was a really good player in high school. So I found out, met him, and found out he gave lessons, and I took a few from him, and he got me going from rhythm guitar player to starting to play a lot more leads and showing me some really cool stuff. This is one of the diminished things he showed me that I thought was kind of neat. It's pretty simple, folks, but it's built off of just using your index and pinky, hammering on 3 frets apart. And what he was doing was this. He was like, for instance, we start on the 6th string 1st fret. And I know this, we're getting away from our Locrian, folks, but I'll show you this just because it's diminished, and the Locrian is very similar to diminished, except we have to double flat the 7 to get that one extra note there, okay? And we'll come back and wrap up with some of the Locrian in a few minutes. And we also have a chord change that I've got written down there in that little text box too I want to go over with everybody, okay? But check this out. So if you start on the 6th string 1st fret, and we're going to go 1st, hammer to the 4th fret with your index and pinky. Then we go to the 5th string, frets 2 and 5, same thing, pick, hammer on. 4th string goes frets 3 and 6, same thing, pick, hammer on. And then the 3rd string, we're going to go down a string, up a fret. At frets 4 to 7, we're going to do a pick, hammer on, pull off. And then string 4 at the 6th fret. So the lick goes. Okay. Now, if you play it, even though it's 2 notes per string, if you play it with a triplet feel, it's going to sound not so much like 2s, because you don't want that. You don't want to play it where we can hear when you switch strings. Okay, you want to blend it together, and I kind of play it with a triplet feel, so it goes da 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 da. Okay, watch. There's 3 triplets, and then it ends on the 4th string 6th fret for that last note. All index and pinky except your 3rd finger at the end. Now, this is what's really cool about diminished ideas, folks. If you move it, since every note is 3 frets apart, if you move the exact same lick up 3 frets, you can play the exact same thing. It's the same notes, but shuffled in a different order. It's a different inversion of the same 3 notes, okay? That's why, if you're familiar, like I hear sometimes jazz players will play a diminished chord, and then they move it up 3 frets in 3, or move down in 3s. Okay, if you move it up or down in threes, it's the same. It's a different inversion. It's the same notes in a different order. So if you take this lick, now just move it up, start on the 4th fret of the 6th string, play the exact same shape. Okay, so that implies too that you've got the first shape down in the first place. If you can't quite play the first idea, you're not ready yet to move it up 3 frets. But if you got that down, move it up, start on the 4th fret, play exact same geometric shape. Then start on the 7th fret. Then start on the 10th fret. So check it out all together. You got, oops. And then you could resolve, that would work really good in A minor. And then when you're done playing any one of those, if you play an A minor chord, see how it resolves? Even if I do the next one. See, A minor sounds like the great chord to end on. No matter which one you do. Okay. Kind of cool ideas, folks. All right, something to chew on. A little sidetrack there. Hello, James. How you doing? Good, good, good. So, people, I know I might be talking about some stuff that's over your head. If it is, and you want some clarification, just put it in the comment there, and I'll be glad to reiterate it or maybe explain it differently. Or if you have some other questions about the modes, because we've only got tonight and next week, and then we're done with the modes, and then we're going to be starting a new series. And I'm going to be spending some time on that new series that's coming down the pipeline, starting in 3 weeks or 2 weeks after tonight. Next week's the last one for Locrian. Then the following week, we're going to start the brand new series. It's going to be on lead guitar techniques. And what I'm going to be doing in that series, just maybe make a mark on your calendar, we're going to spend 2 weeks at a time on different techniques that we use in lead guitar playing. Like I'm going to spend 2 weeks on hammer-ons and pull-offs. I'm going to spend a couple weeks on hybrid picking. I'm going to spend a few weeks on string bending and vibrato. I'm going to be spending a couple weeks on tapping. I'm going to be spending a couple weeks on sweep picking. Okay. Different things like that. Spending a few weeks on other things. I've got several lined up. So that'll be a good one too. If some of us aren't really as proficient on lead guitar and you want to work on your chops, or if you can already play decently and just want some more exercises, it might be a good class for you. All right, cool. So David's just making a comment here. Let me read this. If you play the flat 5 on the 5th, root on the 4th, and then flat 5, flat 7, flat 3rd, is that reasonable chord shape? Like it on the high 5 strings and resolves nicely to a C chord. So which chord are you referring to, Dave? If you're going to resolve it to a C, so usually, yeah, I'm not quite getting your question. Play the flat 5 on the 5th string. Okay. And then the root on the 4th. All right, I got you. I see what you're doing, David. Then the flat 5. And then the flat 7. Yeah, actually, Dave, we're not doing the 7th because the 7th makes it a half diminished. Okay? And then the 7 would be. Okay? We don't want that. We want just a regular triad. A root. You could do it like this, Dave, where your 3rd finger plays the root, string 4th to 9th fret. Index finger on the 3rd string, 7th fret. That's your flat 3rd. And your middle finger plays the 8th fret on string 5. That's the flat 5 note. Okay? That's a good B diminished triad right there. It sounds kind of ugly. It's the shape that I've got here, but we're not playing the bar and we're not playing the root note on the 6th string. We're just pretend that note's not there and we're just playing the other 3 notes. Okay? That would be that particular one. Now, if you want to make it not a half diminished, but a full diminished, you got to take the 7th degree there, which is the A, and you got to flat that. Okay? So you got to play an A flat in there. See, if I do this, David, if I play the 3 notes, the upper 3 notes from the diagram on our sheet I gave you, and then I put my pinky on the 2nd string, 9th fret, and play just the 4 middle strings. This is a really good way of playing a diminished chord, a full diminished chord. It's got it's got 4 different notes, a root, flat 3rd, flat 5, and a double flat 7. Those are the numeric names for it, but if you don't get that, folks, don't worry about it. Just if some of this piques your interest, we got plenty of lessons on guitar tricks that can help answer those questions. We've got several great instructors. I'm one of them. I can help you with that. We've got some other guys that are really good with the rock. Some guys that are instructors are really good with the jazz. And if you want to go a little deeper into jazz, okay. I like jazz music. I'm really not a great jazz guitar player. I can probably fake my way through a few things here and there. But there's, if you really want to study jazz, I recommend taken from some player that really knows his stuff. But I can definitely help you with all the theory end of it. And I've got, several songs out of the jazz fake books that I do with students that are pretty cool. I can share those with you too. But that's one good way to do the diminished chord, Dave, based off of the shape that's in our sheet right there. Okay. And then Dave's saying, thought it was okay play the flat 7 since it's in the scale. A little confused about that. Yeah, Dave, I'm going off track here and bringing in the double flat 7 just because I'm more familiar with applications like that. Just the regular minor 7 flat 5, or sometimes we call it a half diminished. One way to do that back here, Dave, would be to play it in this manner. Let's see, we've got root. Try this, Dave. This is a really easy way to play the B minor 7 flat 5 or a half diminished. You hold the 4th string 9th fret, that's your B note. And then with your 3rd finger, or 2nd if you want, but I usually use the 3rd, we're going to bar strings 3, 2, 1 in the 10th fret. Okay? And if you break that down and figure out what the 4 notes are relative to that B note, Dave, the B is your root, the 3rd string, that's your flat 5 note. And then the 2nd string, the A, that's your flat 7. Okay, that's the note that if we're going to really make it a full diminished, we got to make that flat 7 a double flat 7, which means it's going to be a fret lower. It's going to be the 9th fret, so it'll be this. See, that's the kind of chord you hear Randy Rhoads using. And then some of the Spanish classical players. Okay, but in jazz, when they play minor 7 flat 5, see, it doesn't quite sound as dark. And the minor 7 flat 5, even though it's in this scale and it's in this this key, it's not movable like diminished. Remember, I was mentioning to you diminished chords and arpeggios. You can move them 3 frets down or up, 3 fret increments. As long as you go in 3s, it's still the same notes, just in a different order. It's different inversions. Okay. And then, so you got a root, you got a flat 5, you got a flat 7. And then the 1st string, Dave, would be the D note. That's your minor 3rd. Okay. There you go. Okay. So if we were to do different inversions for your chord, your this chord, for instance, Dave, and everyone else, when I move it up the fretboard, I would have to reconfigure all of that. Hear how that sounds? That's a total different shape than this one. Or if I move down, it would be a different shape. What's cool about the diminished, though, if you flat that 7, double flat it, okay? Now, if I move up 3 frets, it's the same exact notes, the exact same shape. I don't have to change anything. Up 3, down 3, down 3, down 3, down 3. Okay, so good stuff. Little talked about that, Dave. And people, this just apply, use, and take from these classes whatever is going to help your playing. If you don't think you're ever going to play jazz music or be doing work with the modes and the Locrian mode, for instance, the Locrian is the least, the one I hear about the least. And most players don't really write songs in Locrian too often. So it's probably not one, other than knowing it for academic purposes, you might not have too many other applications for it. But don't sweat it. If you're not going to be doing jazz music, then don't worry about learning what I'm talking about right now. Just take from this whatever means something to you and try to work it into your playing. Okay. Now, Russ has got something here. Let me read what Russ says. Looking forward to learning some things in the next sessions for lead guitar playing, as I'm more of a rhythm player. Excited for the World Series. All right, cool. Yeah, so are we out here in Phoenix. We're very surprised and pleased and happy that the Diamondbacks beat last night. It was a great series, beat the Phillies. So I know I've got some of my students are Phillies fans, and got some students in Texas too. There was also the Houston Astros and the Texas Rangers were playing against each other. But it should be a good World Series, definitely. The Rangers against the Diamondbacks. A long time ago, I learned this song, getting off subject here, but since Russ brought up the World Series, check this out. There we go. One more time. Let me see if I can do that without butchering it too bad, but that's the idea. Let me fire this one up here real quick, folks. I learned one of my students was a big baseball fan a few years ago, and he insisted upon learning Take Me Out to the Ballpark. Let me see. I got that in here somewhere, folks. It's like the seventh inning stretch. If anyone's been to a baseball game, the middle of the 7th inning is when they usually play this little tune here. Okay, here we go. So we got... Right on. All right, Russ, there's my Take Me Out to the Ballpark. Sorry about the butcher job. Yes. All right, cool. And we're doing a gig. The band I'm in, we're playing this Friday night, and we're playing from out here in Phoenix. We're playing from 5 to 8 at this bar, pretty close to my house here. But it's right when the World Series Game 1 starts, so they probably have the game on at the bar on the TV. So we'll be like playing and watching it at the same time. And if people bring it up, I'll see if I can brush that off and get that up to shape. Get that up to shape so I don't butcher it if the appropriate opportunity comes up. All right, back to the ranch here, folks, though, about music. David Carlton saying, one more question. If you play the double flat 7, haven't you left the Locrian mode? Yes, David, you absolutely did. And that's why I was, mentioning that it does leave the mode, but it's very close to the Locrian mode. Okay, the Locrian is about as close to diminished sounding as you can get within all the modes, the 7 modes we've talked about. Locrian is the closest. It's not diminished, but it's close to it. Okay, so absolutely, we have left the Locrian mode. So let me get back to the Locrian mode, and we're going to talk about a chord progression. You might play that over, and you'll see that it's kind of a dark chord progression. It doesn't necessarily sound peaceful and easy like some of the other changes we did for like Dorian. Sounded really good. Or Phrygian, we were going okay, all those different modes. Lydian. Okay, they all sound really good, but the Locrian one, it's kind of unresolved and a little too much on the dark side for me. Let me just finish Dave's question, though. We'll try not to ask these questions tomorrow, otherwise we'll be way off track. Exactly, Dave. I got actually, Dave, you're on Friday this week, not Thursday. So, right, you should have that correct, because that's what I've got on my schedule right in front of me is Friday with you. But yeah, if you have questions, Dave, we can talk about it there. But I know we're going to be working on some of the pick technique and the other stuff you've been working on. So I do keep track with all my students what I do. So if I don't see a student for a few weeks or a few months, I look back at what our last lesson was, and then I want to at least go over some of that homework stuff. So Dave, brush up on that stuff and we'll go over it a little bit. And then Russ is saying, cool. The mode for Take Me Out to the Ballpark is actually, it's that I just did it in C major, Russ. It's pretty much C major, Russ, except it does have one spot where it plays a note outside of the C major. Right here. Buy me some, buy me some. He plays that G sharp note, which is not in C major. Okay, and then otherwise it's all C major. And at the very end, he plays, he switches to, he plays the sharp to the 4. So you could say the last part of it is like C Lydian because it has a sharp 4 in it. And then this first part, when he plays the G sharp, that's like the sharp 5 or the flat 6. So there's a few notes that don't fit, but most of it, Russ, is like C Ionian. Okay. And then Dave saying, sorry, Friday. Oh, Dave, you're one of the lucky ones. You're retired. Don't know what day it is. Yeah, I'm not quite there yet. still bolted down to the 5-day work week and keeping busy with the students. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Let's go. The first pattern I showed everybody up here for the Locrian, that's one of the cage patterns. That's the E form pattern, if you're familiar with the cage, but it's very comfortable one to play if you've got shorter fingers. But the second string has only 2 notes. See, that is it's comfortable to play, but in terms of speed, everybody, when we got 3 notes on most of the strings, and then there's the oddball string with 2, and then back to 3, that kind of throws any type of sequential playing you're doing would kind of, that string would kind of mess up the pattern a little bit. But moving down to the second one, this is our arrangement for the Locrian 3 notes per string. Okay. It's a good exercise to do. And it ends up using all 4 fingers. The 6th and 5th strings, what's neat about it too, is that every pair of strings, the 6th and 5th string, are their unique shape. They're half step, whole step twice. And then the 4th and 3rd string is whole step, half step. We're going to use the index, ring, and pinky. And then the top 2 strings were whole step, where I like to use index, middle, and pinky. And we do each string set as it's the same. There's 2 of them, right? So the 6th and 5th go. Then the 4th and 3rd go. And then the 2nd and 1st go. Okay. It's also a good exercise to go backwards. Okay, now if you're doing sequences, people, like your 3s or 4s. It kind of keeps the picking is kind of a familiar pattern across the strings. Or if you're doing something a little more shreddy, like or maybe going up. Now that D sounds. If you want to hear how the scale sounds, try to find, like, if you create a looper pedal of just a B note, just going. Because your chord, you don't want to play a B power chord, because the one of the notes in the power chord, the 5th, that's not in the scale, the mode. That note's going to actually sound bad. And when you play your flat 5 against it, it'll sound really bad. Okay, we want that. Just have a B note going. Or if you have a keyboard where you can just play a B note, maybe a couple B octaves, and maybe get a drum beat going, just and have that hold over it. See how that sounds? When you focus on the B, it sounds. It has a kind of a dark sound to it. And then that's, a good little pattern, and it's easy to play kind of quickly if you do 3 notes per string. Another good thing to do with the 3-noter per string is to practice your legato technique. What is legato? Well, what I just played for everyone was not legato. It was picking every single note, all right? But instead of picking every note, how about do what Randy Rhoads would have done, or Van Halen does this a lot, where they'll pick one note on a string, like the lowest note on that string, and then they'll hammer on the next two notes. We're assuming there's 3 notes per string. We're going to go pick, hammer, hammer. Same on the next string. So you only pick 6 notes. We're going to pick the first note of each string and then hammer on, hammer on. And then come back to the B so you can get a nice sound of that dissonance that the Locrian has. I'm going to just add a little more. I'm going to add a tube screamer to my sound. Okay, hammer-on's going up. And then come back to your root note, which is the first string 7th fret or the second string 12th fret. Okay, now try it backwards, legato style, doing pull-offs. So we'll pick the pinky note and then pull-offs going backwards. Sometimes, too, it's neat to change your order of your notes. Instead of just playing them in order, maybe go on each string, go low note, high note, middle note. And then just take that through the scale. Next string, same thing. Low note, high note, middle note. Next string, same thing. How about backwards? Or maybe going down, go high, low, middle. Oops. Okay, neat ideas there. Simple, but something to work on your finger strength and getting clarity in the notes that you're pulling off or hammering onto. Let's see, David saying legato. I just wanted to play the beginning to Modern Day Cowboy. Yes. Yeah, they start with that. Yeah, they do. Something like that, Dave. Yeah, it's been a while, David. I haven't heard that song in a while, but yeah, I used to play it. I forgot where they're doing them at, but it's something to that effect. That's a good point. Yep, those the boys in Tesla are definitely doing legato. Pick, and they're doing legato, and they're doing 3 notes per string on that particular lick. And you could treat all 7 of your modes arranged 3 notes per string. So if you've been with me for the last 14 weeks or 13 weeks, 12 weeks, we got 13 and 14 to wrap up tonight and next week, because we did 7 modes, 2 weeks on each mode. That's 14 lessons. If you got them all, you can print them out, right? And then just make exercises out of all your modes where you go up and down each pattern. You're going to find that some of the patterns end up being really friendly finger shapes for playing things. Like there's 7 different finger patterns when you arrange the notes 3 notes per string. Not all 7 of them, though, are as finger friendly as some of the other ones. Okay, like the Mixolydian one, for instance, 3 notes per string. I like that a lot because it uses fingers 1, 2, and 4 a lot. If I did G Mixolydian, just the first string is the only one where I have to introduce the 3rd finger. Or I like the Ionian one too, because every two strings, kind of like Locrian, every pair of strings is the same shape. C Ionian was 8, 10, 12 on 6 and 5, 9, 10, 12 on 4 and 3, and then 10, 12, 13 on 2 and 1. And Randy Rhoads does that kind of stuff a lot. I think in Mr. Crowley, he does. It's in D minor. He plays the relative major, F major, and then he does it an octave higher. Okay, anyway, you get the idea. So, all right, cool, David. We'll see you on Friday. And then let me read Russ's comment. We're almost done here. Russ saying, Dave, great series on the modes. This always seemed like a mystery. Now at least I have an understanding of the concept. Yeah, Russ, it's the modes are very tricky and to wrap our heads around. There's a lot to it. It's really, you got to spend time with backing tracks, practicing them over the backing tracks, finding songs. Like I try to illustrate every lesson what songs use, like Slash uses Mixolydian in the Sweet Child of Mine, a couple of the solos in that song. Paradise City is also a kind of a Mixolydian type of sound and tune. And I try to give different song representations. Santana likes the Dorian mode a lot for like Evil Ways and a few other Santana songs. He also likes Aeolian a lot too. Yngwie Malmsteen likes the Phrygian a lot and the Phrygian dominant mode. Real briefly, folks, and then we'll wrap it up here. Those chords I have for Locrian, it says G over B. What that means is we're playing a G triad with a B in the bass. And then the next one is an F triad with a B in the bass. Okay? Let's see if there's another way to do that, a better way. So if you can hold the B note and then play it's kind of a tricky chord to grab real quick, but it's like your F triad with the B. It doesn't sound too good, but that's that chord. These are chords in B Locrian. That's the sound of those two chords that are in the text box at the very bottom here, the G over B and then the F over B. So it's the chord on the upper left side of the slash is your triad. The lower bottom part of that slash is the bass note. We want, since we're doing B Locrian, we want the B to be in the bass. Even do this, play a G triad at the 12th fret with your pinky, hold the B, and move it back to the F. Not easy to do, but that's kind of the sound you'd be looking for. All right, people, join me next Wednesday night. We're going to do I'll kind of review some of what we talked about tonight, and then we're going to go over the single string version of Locrian on the top strings. And we're going to talk about, instead of numerically, like root, flat 2, flat 3, relating that to their scale, we're going to talk about whole steps and half steps. And then you want to also know about your modes in that perspective, in terms of from the root to like the second would be a half step, the second to the flat third would be a whole step, etc. We'll go over that next week. And then we will be done with our mode series. So join me one more week, and we'll be wrapping it up next week on this. Everyone, be good. Appreciate everyone showing up and checking them out. Don't forget, if you're not a Guitar Tricks member, reach out to them, man. They've got some great deals going on. I see they've got all kinds of promotions happening, a lot of fun stuff going on. So we've got some classes we're starting to offer too through the site. So you can't join them, though, unless you're a member of Guitar Tricks. So reach out to them, man. It's not that much, and there's a ton of songs on the site. And we've got a lot of lessons, too, other stylistic lessons, too, not just songs, but good information for anyone wanting to get better and grow as a guitar player. All right, everyone have a great night. Richard, Danny, Russ, appreciate it. Thank you, King 50, Zane, and David. We'll see everyone next week. Peace. Keep flying. Keep them fingers flying. Keep practicing, all right? Don't give up. Just keep at it. Even if you just do a little bit a day, it's better than nothing. All right, be good, everyone. See you next week. Bye.